For those that are not familiar with Huda Kattan, this lady is an very successful, tremendously successful cosmetics brand leader. Her company is called Huda Beauty. It is, at this point, I think it's a multi-billion-dollar valued company. And she is worth about $500 million based on the success that she has had, which is substantial to say the least. And so she decided to make a TikTok video that I cannot show you because it's been brought down. But she is somebody who, as an Iraqi American, built a ground up business and has always been on the side of justice, it would appear. And as it turns out, in November of 2023, so within a matter of weeks after the attacks and the genocide had commenced, Huda donated $1 million to Doctors Without Borders and another organization that I believe is Free Gaza, or I believe that was the name. It may be in the article and I could check that. So right off the bat, she showed where her loyalties lie, on the side of justice, without hesitation. Got out there, out in front, was supporting the cause. And so recently she did a TikTok video in which she espoused an opinion that I think is fairly sound, maybe not 100% sound, but an opinion nonetheless that basically varied along the lines of Israel has more or less been responsible for all global wars of the 20th century and now the 21st century. Now, do I think that that is accurate? Probably not all across the board. However, do I think that she bears... If I think Israel bears a certain level of responsibility as a result of such activity, yes, I do. And so I'm completely on board with the idea that we must do anything and everything within our capacity to break ties with them. But as it turns out, and this should come as no surprise to anybody, that good old Israel lobby front group, Stop Anti-Semitism, although it should just be Increase Anti-Semitism, because that's really what they want, and that is essentially what ends up happening. They decided that they were going to do everything in their power to make an example of Huda Kattan, no matter how powerful she is, no matter how successful she is, no matter how much of a financial swoon her business is for millions of people. Like I said, she has 57 million followers on Instagram alone. So they got to work and they decided they were going to put maximum pressure on one of her biggest distributors, and that, of course, is Sephora. And it turns out that they decided to cave. Sephora cuts ties with Huda Kattan, cites viral anti-Semitic video from TikTok. Yes, totally anti-Semitic. Anything that criticizes Israel is deemed anti-Semitic, but in reality, it's just anti-Jewish because, let's face it, the overwhelming majority of people who are, we'll say, from that region are Semitic, and they're not Israeli. Most Israelis are of European descent. So the whole concept of saying that you're anti-Semitic is kind of moot. But nevertheless, from the Jerusalem Post, so you're really getting it from the heart of the people who support the Israel cause. But nevertheless, Sephora cuts ties with Huda Kattan. Kattan posted a video in July promoting an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory blaming Israel for nearly every major catastrophe of the last century to her 1.7 million TikTok followers. Hey, no argument so far. Kind of getting the gist of where she's at. Sephora decides to cut ties with the Iraqi-American entrepreneur Huda Kattan, creator of the cosmetics brand Huda, after she posted a series of after she posted a series of videos on TikTok in July. The video posted by Kattan promoted an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory blaming Jews. She didn't. She blamed Israel. But we know what the Jerusalem Post will do. And for nearly every major catastrophe of the last century, including both world wars and the 9/11 attacks, to her followers. Well, do I think there is some truth that Israel has had a hand in a lot of conflicts over the last century plus? Yes, I do. And I would imagine a lot of you guys probably do as well. Now, I'm not going to say that Israel was responsible for the 2 world wars because Israel wasn't a state yet. But do I think that there is direct correlation between the Zionist cause and what ultimately happened in Europe over the course of the first half of the 20th century? Yeah, I do think there is ties there. Do I think that there are ties regarding what ultimately ended up happening going to war in Southeast Asia? Hey, we know for a fact that Israel attacked the USS Liberty in 1967, just as the Vietnam War was kicking into high gear. Actually, it was already in high gear at that point, but obviously they wanted to expand it because it was about eliminating communism, as they wanted us to believe. But we certainly know that this was only the beginning. And so as a result, she puts these messages out there, and the watchdog group, the Israel Lobby Front Group, Stop Anti-Semitism, quickly demanded Sephora cut ties with her brand while TikTok removed the video for violating platform rules. You know, the rules that they just make up as they go along. So Sephora, owned by luxury conglomerate LVMH, not familiar with them, initially tried to buy time, issuing a cautious statement that said it was reviewing the situation in partnership with the brand. However, as public pressure mounted, Colin, what'd you do to me? Nope, hold on. Scroll down. All right. There we are. However, as public pressure mounted, the company made a final decision. It removed Huda Beauty from its prestigious Experts campaign. Kattan built her brand from the ground up. Born in the U.S. to Iraqi parents, she launched Huda Beauty in 2013, growing it into one of the world's most successful cosmetic companies. It is sold not only at Sephora, but also at major retailers such as Harrods and Nikea in India. Nika, excuse me. In North America, however, Huda Beauty relies almost entirely on exclusive distribution through Sephora. If Sephora cuts ties completely, she could lose her most important market. Stop Anti-Semitism has already warned that being dropped from the campaign is only a significant first step. So if you think that they're done just coming after her because she decided to speak out against Israel to her massive following, oh no, they're going to make an example of her. Until Sephora fully severs ties, the group says it will call for a boycott of the retailer. Well, we could certainly make quite a few jokes about the type of women that like to butter up their face with a lot of makeup, but I digress. Kattan eventually tried to do damage control. She posted a lengthy video claiming her words had been misinterpreted and that her original clip was criticism of Israel policy, not of Jews and Judaism. Hey, she doesn't even have to backtrack because I guarantee you that that's what it was. It had nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It had everything to do with the criticism of the state of Israel. She said she deleted it herself after realizing the content was distorted and blamed critics for running a smear campaign. Hey, that's what the Zion Nazis do. So now you see exactly what happens when you cross their path. And even if Sephora stands to lose tens of millions of dollars in revenue as a result of kicking Huda Beauty off of their line, they are not going to cross Israel. And that is essentially where we stand today, guys. We are still stuck in a conundrum of how do we deal with this genocidal, psychopathic state that has their hooks in almost every corner of our economy. On a daily basis, you will find that there are new ways for them to take over our local, state, and federal government, and in this case, the private sector as well. And so what I recommend to each and every one of you that is watching this live stream, to everyone who is going to see this clip when we drop it, I would highly recommend that if you must purchase cosmetic supplies, please strongly consider not doing it any longer at Sephora. If they think the wrath of the Zion Nazis is scary, how about the wrath of everyone who isn't a Zion Nazi? Because as far as I can tell, there's probably a lot more that are not, that do shop at Sephora. And maybe now they'll find out that their fear of Israel and the Zionist lobby is not nearly as scary and as dangerous to their brand as one would think. And so I, again, would implore everyone that if you are a partaker in any type of beauty supply, take it elsewhere away from Sephora. Now, again, I don't know where I would recommend that you go that isn't Sephora. Your guess is as good as mine. I am not picky when it comes to this type of stuff. I think any place that is not on board, yes, it is huge in New York. It's huge in a lot of places. And so in the end, I would venture that this is not going to be easy, but I would implore people to do just that. Yes, Nordstrom is a distributor, distributes cosmetic supplies, so I believe that that would be okay. Ulta, I think, would be one. Throw them all out there. Whatever you guys have. Look into all of these names and see if they are acceptable and that they are not on board. Mary Kay, yes, it's big in Texas. Again, their bark is much worse than their bite. Remember, we have the numbers. They don't. And that's probably worth quite a bit. Jen was mentioning to me earlier that she frequents Sephora. Not anymore. Again, I don't not want people to shop at Sephora. I just want Sephora to stop doing business with Israel and stop being afraid to break away from them or thinking that if you criticize them, that they really have the type of power to convince people to stop shopping there. Again, their support is a mile wide and it's an inch thick. That's it. Not deep at all. They project strength and they have a lot of money and influence for sure. But do they really have the numbers? Do Zionists truly have the numbers to dent the market share of what Sephora sells nationwide and worldwide? I doubt it. And considering how most people feel about the state of Israel at this point, to me, again, it's the Wizard of Oz. The big, powerful wizard is just a small man standing behind a curtain. And that's the state of Israel. That's what they have become. So please, if you must, do not ever shop at Sephora again until they get their mind right.